turning good customers into great ones and occasional app users into regular ones. These should be the main goals of any mobile app. Now, the Loyalty tab is a powerful tool in accomplishing it. This tab allows users to check in to accumulate points that can be cashed in for rewards. Let's start by seeing it in action. The phone screen on the right belongs to a customer who's entering our coffee shop. He launches his app and taps Check-in on the Loyalty Program tab. The screen on the left, imagine, is an iPad sitting on the front counter of the coffee shop, or any smartphone. I'm logged in as an admin, which gives me access to a real-time queue of customers as they tap their check-in buttons. With 2 simple taps, 1, 2, I can validate the customer's check-in during the ordering process. The customer screen is instantly updated with their new point total. Now, what if you don't have a device for your point-of-sale counter, or what if you do table service? Not to worry, the validation can also happen on the customer's device. Your employees can simply enter a 4-digit secret PIN on the customer's device to validate the check-in. So let's walk through this again. On the right, the customer taps Check-in, hands the device to the user who quickly enters a 4-digit PIN to validate the check-in. Done. When you set up your loyalty program, you will configure the number of visits required to reach the redemption bonus. In our example, it only requires 2 check-ins, so if our customer checks in a 3rd time, let me tap Check-in, it's cash-in time. In this example, the redemption bonus is 1 free coffee drink. The user can cash this in as free coffee or just keep accumulating points. Now I'll validate the check-in on our point-of-sale device. Yes, cash in and validate, and you'll notice that the points drop and the user can start accumulating points again for their next cash-in point. Now notice also the half-filled star on the right. This icon indicates a regular customer, someone who checks in enough times per period to qualify. When the star is full, it indicates a VIP customer. You define how many visits per period qualifies a user as a regular or VIP. We'll go over that shortly. This is a great visual indicator of a customer's value. Now let's say your customer doesn't have his device with him. Not a problem. On the Queue tab in the point of sale device, there is a search field where you can look the customer up, which I've already done, but I'll do it again. Tap and validate. You can also add new users to your loyalty program here by simply entering the name and email address. So they don't even need their smartphone to participate. Now let's dive under the hood and set up a new loyalty program from scratch. Under App Settings, here, select Tabs and Content, then our gear icon and Add tab, and we have Loyalty Program. We tap Use, we'll give it a name, and you can publish it to your menu immediately, or you can save it, configure it, and publish it later. We'll just go ahead and publish it. Launch. Alright, so our program is not configured. We just have to tap the gear and select Loyalty Program Admin. Okay, so we just need to answer a few questions. First, how many visits qualify a customer for a redemption? So we saw the redemption. It was that cash-in point for a free coffee in our example. You define how many visits that would require. So the default is 9, which means on the 10th visit, the user is able to cash in. Let's just set this to 6. Then you describe what your offer is. In our example, it was 1 free coffee drink. The final question on this tab is whether you want to require the transaction amount. Now notice on the right, when the user taps check-in, you have a transaction amount. In this example, it's optional, but you can require that. Now the upside is you get real data, you get actual transaction figures to monitor your program with. The downside is it takes a couple of extra seconds. It's completely up to you. The next tab, click Next, defines what constitutes a regular and a VIP customer in terms of visits per period. Now, why is this important? Because the program rewards your best customers with more points per check-in. Regulars get a 5% point bonus over base customers, and VIPs get a 5% more per check-in than regulars. So first you define your activity period. This is the number of days during which you find out who your regulars are. So for a coffee shop, 30 days may be enough, and that's the default. For your business, a regular customer may come once a month, so 90 days is probably a good activity period. We'll just keep it at 30 days for now. Then you define how many visits per activity period qualify a customer as a regular. The default is 10. Let's do 12. And then your VIPs, how many visits per activity period qualifies a user as a VIP. The default is 20. Let's say 18. So again, this is completely up to you. Our system calculates each day the trailing activity period to decide who's a regular and who's a VIP. Let's save these settings. Okay, the next tab is for setting up employees with access to the customer queue and assigning PIN numbers. Remember, you can validate check-ins using the point of sale device on the customer queue tab, and no PIN is required. You just have to be logged in and have permission to see this tab. But if you want employees to be able to validate check-ins on customer devices, as we saw earlier, over here, right here, then you'll need a PIN. And you have two options. You can share a PIN, a single PIN among all your employees, and that's set here on this first tab. Or you can assign individual PINs for each admin. You can also add admins by email. Oops. You can give them their name and assign a PIN. Okay, and then save. You can also assign random PINs to everyone on the list and send those PIN numbers using push notifications by tapping this button here. Now, your admins will need to have a device with the app installed and push enabled for that feature to work. The customer queue access is similar to the PIN tab. You can again add admins to the list so that they can see the customer queue tab. And just to review, we'll go back, click on the gear, and this is the real-time queue. Now what you're assigning is permission to this tab right here, not to the admin tab itself, not to this tab. That one is for app level admins. You're simply assigning employee access to the customer queue tab. Okay, so on to the messaging tab. You can configure push notification messages to be sent to customers once they've reached the following milestones. First visit. The first time users get a one-time bonus on the first check-in. This point total will be listed here. In our example, you get 750 points for the check-in plus 75 points for the first visit. And you can create a message that highlights that. As a first-time bonus, you got an additional 75 points. Now, you can also configure a message for when a user becomes a regular. So we'll go here, and that just means when a user has visited or checked in enough during the activity period that they become a regular, and again, you've defined how many visits that means, they get a point bonus. In our example, they now get 788 points, and you can highlight that in your message. Same with VIP status, 827 points in this example. And finally, for those customers who have not checked in at all during the activity period, you can configure an inactive message. Something like, "We miss you, I would love to see you back in the store." Let's say that. And the final thing to note here, if you don't craft the message, then no messages are sent. So it's completely up to you whether you want to send these messages. The final tab is a simple user manager where you can look up customers, see their point totals, and even send them a direct push notification. Please note that only users who have checked in at least once will show up in the results. So if I search for Joe Customer, I won't see anything. That's because Joe Customer has not checked into this new program. This brings up another feature. I have two loyalty programs going in this app. The check-ins happening on the Loyalty Program tab are completely separate from the New Loyalty Program tab. So if I jump over to the original one, go into the admin and look up Joe Customer, there he is. I can see when he checked in, who validated the check-ins, what type of customer, total points. Okay, so we're so close to having our new loyalty program tab set up. If we go back, notice that the text has changed. Before it said we needed to configure the program, which we've done. Now we need to configure what the view looks like for new visitors and returning visitors. This is done using the gear menu. We can edit new user header content or returning user header content. So if we go in here, add some content, let's just do a simple text block. Welcome to the new loyalty program. Save that. So now we have something for our new users to see. If we go to the device on the right, he's ready to check in for the first time. Now that we've configured the messaging, as soon as I complete a check-in, the phone on the right should get a push. Our first time visitor push. And finally, there's also an analytics tab here that will show you a chart on the number of check-ins and cash-ins, as well as your top users by check-ins and point total. These metrics will be processed hourly, and we'll be adding more to the tab over time. The loyalty program is a great way to engage your app users and keep them coming back.